I forget to breathe when I'm inside the lattice. It's easier that way. Lungs quiet, heartbeat low, while alien nucleotides blink like constellations across my visor. The Zor matrices don't line up like ours. They knot, they braid, they hum. I chase a whisper of symmetry through a tunnel of base pairs until the lab clock in my retinal hood taps my optic nerve. 72,315 since Nira's last dose. I rip myself out of the chair so fast the gel harness slaps my ribs. The lab drones scuttle aside. Outside the glass, the Aurora Trail opens like a bright bone. Long spine, ribs of corridors, glass organs blinking with status light. Somewhere in that body, Nira is trying not to call me, trying to prove she doesn't need the vial I keep locked in a cold pocket at my hip. Her voice hits me in the earbud anyway, a fracture full of static. Ethan. I stop moving. The word is shaped for control, polished by training, then scraped raw by something she hates. Status, she adds, which is almost funny because she only says that when she's losing it. I'm here, I say. Where are you? Cabin. Don't. The channel crackles. She breathes like a runner. I'm experiencing tremors, thermal imbalance, and anger. I do not want to be angry at you. Stay put, I tell her. Door locks on. Oxygen steady. I'll be there in 2. I run. Mag souls slap flex steel. Hollow posters in the crew alley scroll weather from Earth. Floods washing neon from a Jakarta street. People waiting with groceries lifted to the sky. The coffee printer in Galley B plays an apologetic chime as I slide past it. Your cappuccino has been... Never mind. A 0G courier drifts over my head with a crate of seed vials for an orbital farm that pays us in carbon credits and thin smiles. Ordinary future. It tries to be normal even when it isn't. Her door recognizes my biometrics and jerks open. Nira is down in the corner between the bed and bulkhead, arms around her knees, ears low against the skull ridges that emerge when she forgets to smooth them. Her blue skin looks powdered with ash, and her eyes, those brilliant rings like thin solar eclipses, are too bright. She's shrunk herself to take up less air, to be less demanding. She was trained like that. Not by us. I'm not your handler, I say, kneeling fast, because she doesn't need the ritual words, but I do. She lifts her chin. That is a falsehood. Protocol indicates dependence. The vial indicates dependence. You. She breaks off and swallows, jaw rigid. I hate the shape of this need. I reach for her hand, and she lets me. Cold, twitching. Her fingers run over the micro scars on my palm from 100 clumsy lab mishaps. You're not a protocol, I tell her. You're a person. Zor do not. She stops again, squeezes her eyes shut. I require the compound. I will repay. Not a transaction, I say, softer. Never a transaction. I pull the vial from its cold holster. Ocean blue, viscosity like honey. We named it Hum 72 in the paperwork, but between us, it's just the thing that keeps your cells from panicking among the humans. She hates it. Hates the way it reminds her that her old system had every lever tuned. What she ate, who she was, who she loved, if that word even fit. I load the injector. Her nostrils flare. I can't keep doing this to you, she says. To me. There must be a knot we can cut. There is, I say. I've been working it. A way to stabilize the crosstalk between your mitochondrial conduits and our oxygen load. We can decouple you from Hum 72 entirely. But it's not ready. I need. Sirens scream. Red strobes paint her room like an autopsy. The ship voice drops an octave. Security breach! This is not a drill! Nira is on her feet before I am. Tremors forgotten. The commander living under the scientist snapping awake. She doesn't grab for the dose. She grabs me. Who? I ask, knowing. The signal matches the covenant of pure flesh, she says, eyes unfocusing as she pulls data from the ship like she's always done. 2 boarding craft, crude shields, Evangel. They broadcast. Names. I hear the names slide across the ship wide. Bring us the monster and her human handler. I feel her flinch at monster. I take that flinch into my chest and hold it there. Ethan, she says. Our faces are too close. Admin deck is cut off. They will purge sections. They will make choices that sacrifice me first. I am a liability. You're not. Her mouth barely moves. I have been one before. I click the injector, lift it to her neck, then stop. Her pupils flick to mine. Choice? She asks. My hand shakes once. I lower the injector. We move, I say, and you stay clear until we fix the knot. She doesn't argue. That's how I know she's scared. We're out into the corridor, the red lights chasing us. The Aurora Trail hums louder when it's hurt. Vibrations stacking under my boots, like extra heartbeat. The air tastes like burned citrus, the smell of a laser cut. Crew sprint past us in opposite directions, weapons nested to their chests. Someone shouts my name. Another shouts hers with a spit of hatred and a prayer word tangled together. That's the thing about people. They'll love you with one hand and throw you to the wolves with the other if the right song plays. We pass a decontom arch that refuses to bill me for the rinse. The ship has already rerouted its credits to shield maintenance. A pair of maintenance kids, apprentices from the orbital rings, drag a hose like a python, eyes wide and wild. I nod. They nod back, loyal to anyone moving with intent. We hit a maintenance hatch half hidden behind a defunct vending unit that used to sell nostalgia candy from old Earth. I pop the panel with my lab ID and shoulder the hatch. Cold wind from the pressure differentials kicks my face. Crawl space, I say. It's ugly, but it threads to the launch bay. Nira tilts her head, listening without ears, measuring the ship's breath. Yes. We go in. It's a tube big enough for a child to love and an adult to curse. Wires run like black vines. I lead. She pushes the panel shut behind us with her heel. The sirens dim in here, traded for the close, honest sounds of a working vessel. My shoulders scrape insulation. Nira moves like water. I can feel heat buying time in the plasma coils 2 decks below. Every machine on this ship has always whispered to her. We pass a grid window and glance down into a corridor where 3 figures move with a certainty that doesn't belong to them. Not crew. Covenant rig makes itself ugly on purpose. Angles that bite the light. Helmets like plates ripped off a predator. Ward, one of them shouts, head turning. He can't see us, but he can smell fear. We know you're with it. You think it loves you. You're a rung boy. We're here to kick the ladder. Nira's hand closes on my ankle. Steady. We keep moving. My HUD maps our position to a rough sketch of the bay. The crawl space ends behind a wall of machine lockers that smell like oil and old sweat. I pry the grate. It clatters louder than a metal storm. I wince and slide out into a half-lit corridor that opens on the launch bay. And then I stop, because the launch bay is a graveyard. Pods black and split like mussel shells after a feast. The floor is scuffed with boots and burn. Fresh scorch marks stipple the ceiling. Someone fought here, briefly, and lost quickly. One pod hangs intact on Bay 12 like a stubborn tooth. Its fuel line glints. A janitorial drone skitters in circles, trapped in a loop, chirping, spillage detected, as if naming it could help. Move, Nira says at my shoulder. I do. We stride like we belong here because that trick works until it doesn't. We almost make it. Freeze. 4 rifles complete the sentence with the click of safeties flipping off. A patrol peels from behind a cargo stack. 2 of ours with faces I know. 2 Covenant and stolen security armor. That's worse than outright enemies. That means deals were made. That means the Aurora Trail's illness isn't just external. "Ethan," says Lieutenant Voska, not unkindly, gun steady. He's bleeding from a slice at the ear. "Stand down." "Nira is protected under Article," I start. He looks pained. "Article suspended by Captain's override. We can't hold them. We can hold you." The Covenant man beside him grins through a chipped tooth. "Trade is simple," he purrs. "We take the blasphemy. You keep your ship. Everyone learns the value of purity." Nira steps slightly in front of me. Every line of her is commander then. Calm, calculating. "I can pay," she says, voice smooth and poisonous. "The Zor Commonwealth compensates for inconveniences. Transfer values will exceed—" "Shut up," the chipped tooth says, delighted. "Listen to it pretend to be people." Voska's eyes flicker. He's not a villain. He's tired. He wants to keep his crew alive and his pension intact when we limp back to the contractor's court around Luna. He wants this to be a clean ledger line. I put my hand around her wrist. It's not the dose she needs now. It's friction, human to alien, the little heat that says you exist to me. "Nira," I say, quiet, looking at the pod. "Bay 12. Fuel line good. Manual launch functional if the hydraulics aren't jammed to hell. Trust me." Her fingers twitch once. That's all. "Hands up," Voska says. "No one needs to be a hero." He's wrong on both counts. I lift my hands. Some choices right themselves. Some you carve until your palms bleed. I smile like a man surrendering. I step the way they tell me. I keep the pod at the edge of my sight, bright as a coin at the bottom of a river. I think of the knot and the way knots are sometimes solved, not by pulling tighter, but by giving something up. I take a breath that tastes like oil, burned air, salt from someone's tears that already dried on this floor. I see our future break and mend in the same heartbeat. And then I move. "Freeze!" The rifles bark again, like the word could solder me to the floor. I lift my hands higher, so the cuffs read surrender. My palms face the ceiling. My fingers tremble, but not from fear. I'm measuring the steps to Bay 12, counting by breath. Nira's shoulder touches mine for a fraction, a pulse of heat that finishes a sentence we've been writing since the day I found the Zor sequences that sang back. "On your knees," Voska says. "Yeah," Chipped Tooth adds. "Kneel with the pet." I go down slow. My right knee clicks. I let my hands drop toward my head like I'm reaching to lace them behind my skull, but I pivot the angle into something else. A slip of balance, a lean. When I tip, I drag Nira with me like we're clumsy lovers. We hit the deck together. The nearest rifle tilts. "Careful!" someone shouts. That's the beat. On the floor, my left hand slams the maintenance panel I pried earlier, and the grid grates again. A hideous screech. It's nothing. But noise is a weapon. The janitor drone panics and zips straight under the Covenant man's feet. He curses, stumbles, fires a reflex round at the ceiling. Sparks snow. I'm already rolling. I catch Nira's forearm, yank, and take 2 sprinting steps that will replay in my dreams at wrong speeds forever. My thumb cracks Bay 12's manual latch. The pod door irises open with a wet gasp of seals. "Ethan!" "No time," I say, and shove her inside. Her pupils flare, huge. Her lips part like she might bite me or kiss me or order me to stop. I slam the door. Fingers on the exterior keypad blur. Launch sequence skips the seatbelt checks because the emergency override doesn't care if you bruise. I hit launch. White flare. The pod coughs like a dying comet and punches out of the ship's mouth. Silence hits the bay after a breathless roar. A vacuum in which only my heart dares speak. I turn around slow, hands up again. "She's gone," I tell them. Voska's jaw locks. Relief and rage flicker through his eyes like clashing signals. He lowers his rifle a notch. His men do not. Chipped Tooth laughs. "We'll pick the pod from the black like a pearl," he says. "But the timing is wrong. Our debris field is a slashing chaos, and Selva 9's gravity well yanks at anything small and foolish. If they chase now, they'll lose the shot at me. Their math hates that." "Lieutenant," I say, staring at the good man left inside the tired one. "Take me. Keep your ship whole." His mouth shapes a curse that isn't for me. He nods, a jerk of chin. "Restrain him," he orders, and I let them. Cold bands snap around my wrists. They haul me upright. Chipped Tooth grins into my face, as if I'm a mirror he can fog with breath. "You think the thing will thank you?" he asks. "It will forget you. That is the mercy of beasts." "You don't know her," I say. He winks. "And you don't know us." I do, though. I know men who join a covenant because hierarchy promises them a place where they can be hurt less by getting to hurt first. They march me. We pass viewports, where lines of light bend towards Selva 9, green and black and silver storm. We pass the galley where the coffee printer keeps offering abandoned lattes to empty air. We pass the medbay, where an auto doc searches for a living patient and finds only my reflection. Cuffed. In the brig, the bars shimmer with heater coils and old fear. They push me inside. Vazka stops the Chipped Tooth at the threshold. "I'll take it from here," he says. Protocol says I can run my brig." Chipped Tooth's smile thins. He steps back. His partner does too. But he makes a little gun with his fingers and shoots me twice with invisible bullets as he leaves. Men like him never grew out of recess power. The door seals. Vazka exhales, rubs his ear where the blood dried. "You just made my week harder," he says. "I made your ship lighter," I answer. He appreciates the gall in silence. We listen to the Aurora Trail shudder around us. "You love her?" he asks. It's not an accusation. It's a tired curiosity. "I refuse her money," I say. "I've only ever taken her hand." He closes his eyes like that hurts in a good way. "We'll burn for Selva 9, he says finally. "We don't have a choice. The boarders punched our nav. We can't outthrust the well. If she's down there, that's where we'll orbit. If we survive the re-entry flames." "Thank you," I say. "Don't," he answers. "I still might trade you for the ship." He walks away. Time stretches like skin over a wound. I sit on the metal bench, wrists cuffed, and think through math I can't touch. Nira's pod has enough steer to aim for land, not ocean. Selva 9 is wet, but islanded by ranges that glitter in survey scans with crystalline growths, like teeth. Flora tagged acidic in the briefings. Fauna tagged a void with a skull icon, because that's cheaper than research. I test the cuffs. Old design. Magnetic reed. You can pop them if you're shameless enough to dislocate a thumb and live with the ache for a week. I am both. The scream I don't make is a small victory. The cuffs clatter. I shake my hand back into its socket before I vomit. I kneel and open the little grate under the cot with my teeth and a splinter of shiv I palmed from a peeling conduit in the launch bay 5 minutes before none of this happened. Behind the grate is heat and dust and the Aurora's slow heartbeat. I crawl. If they wrote this into a manual, it would say, "Biochemist exhibits unwise persistence, recommends counseling." If they wrote it into my bones, it would say only, "Go." The maintenance shaft kisses me with the scents I know. Ozone, coolant, hot plastic, until I drop like a rat into a storage locker near the auxiliary launch line. The ship complains and creaks. My HUD paints little red X's over half the pods on this side. One remains. It's ugly. It was meant for cargo with a pulse. I slap a palm to the biometric, override with a stolen string I shouldn't know but do, Because I installed the damn firmware patch last month. The pod door rises like a pair of dead lungs trying to remember the trick. Alarms complain. I ignore them. I strap in. I type 3 numbers with a thumb that still hates me. Launch. The world narrows to the bright throat of exit and the rough hand of gravity. The Aurora Trail flips above me, wounded, gorgeous. The ship that taught 100 orphans to love the same sky. Then heat eats the view. Selva 9 doesn't want me. I feel that in the way the air strikes the pod like a debt collector. The hull glows, complains, peels. I sight through fire for the seam in the clouds that looks like a river. Impact is a fist. Then a laugh. Then nothing. I wake to water shouting at stone. The pod didn't so much land as arrive rudely. I'm lodged half in a riverbank of black grit that shimmers like ground glass. The canopy is crazed with white cracks. Outside, the world is green in the violent, greedy way of a jungle that doesn't consider me worth naming. I unstrap. My muscles are soup. I kick the panel. It doesn't open. I kick again, remembering gym class in the 3rd grade on a flooded coastal school where the floor mat smelled like tired rubber and ambition. The panel gives. Selva 9 throws hot breath in my face, wet as a fever. I stumble out with the pod survival kit slung across my shoulder. Foil blanket, water tabs, knife, 3 flares, and a little chewable bar that tastes like the idea of strawberries. I take a bite. I spit it out. I laugh because I'm alive, and because she is somewhere under this same sky. "Nira!" I shout. The jungle replies with 100 mouth sounds I don't want translations for. I don't shout again. Sound here is a currency. I start walking. The ground is a mat of slick leaves veined with metal glint. My boots find purchase where the roots knot like knuckles. Flowers hang like chandeliers, dripping. One spits a bead of clear liquid at a jittering fly. The fly dissolves into a glimmering smear that steams like sugar. I step wider. Above, the canopy is tight as woven armor. Between trunks, light leaks in geometry. Triangles, hexagons, like someone taught the sun new manners. I file that away for later. I keep moving. I mark my path with ribbon from the kit. It melts. Of course it does. I scratch marks into bark with the knife. The bark bleeds purple and complains audibly. "Sorry," I tell a tree. The tree releases a pepper reek that makes my eyes water and my hunger wake, inappropriate and insistent. I laugh again because this planet wants to sell me things. Hours pass like insects. I drink condensed water from a leaf that offers me a cupped hand, then tries to close on my face like a trap. I cut free. I curse softly, in case the jungle is listening and likes to be wooed that way. I find a clearing. At its center rises a spire. It's not huge, 20 meters. But it doesn't belong. It's made of something that looks like crushed moonlight. It flickers in my peripheral vision, like a fly you can't swat. When I look straight at it, it pretends to be stone. "Okay," I tell it. "You're real, even if you're shy." I circle once, keeping distance. The ground here hums faintly, like the ship's deck when the jump coil spins up. The hair on my arms rises. I think of the Zor matrices that braid in 4s and 5s instead of pairs, of Nira's voice when she taught me their word for home that also means not. "Ethan." Her voice rides the clearing like a tiger. I spin, knife out, heart stupid with joy and dread. She stands at the edge of the trees, skin scuffed, hair failing to mimic human brown, eyes bright as the first time I learned the word impossible. She's thinner than she was a day ago. She's beautiful in the way a storm is when it decides not to drown your house. I take a step. So does the predator behind her. It's coiled among vines, patient in the way of a creature that evolved from hunger to religion. Its mouth opens like a flower that learned blasphemy. It will be on her in a breath and a half. I wouldn't, I say, very calm to the predator, like talking to a faulty centrifuge. She's with me. My right hand rises with the makeshift spear I carved from an antenna strut and a shard of pod hull. My left hand raises a flare. I strike it. Red guts bloom into the clearing like war. The predator recoils, a ripple of muscle and offended glory. It thinks about leaving, thinks about dying loudly. It chooses slow retreat because the jungle here rewards patience. Nira exhales. Something unclenches in my chest that I'd been holding for years without admitting it. You launched me, she says. I did. You broke us. I fixed the part I could. She walks into me like someone finally stepping into a room they've wanted to enter their whole life. We collide, awkward with gear and sweat and fear, and we stay there because neither of us knows how to stop. Her forehead touches my neck. I still require dose, she whispers. I hate that. I know. I also require you, she says, smaller. I hate less. I laugh, and she pulls back with a look that says, "Don't mock me." I kiss the air between us to apologize, without claiming more than she'll give. Let's survive the night, I say. Yes, she answers. Then, a glint of the person she used to be in the system that trained her. She drags 2 fingers down my sternum, clinical, curious, teasing. Also, she says, voice a little husky, I need that thing between your legs again, human. Your pheromones. My ears burn. We'll negotiate terms with supper. Not a transaction, she says automatically, and blushes a darker blue when she hears herself. We build a shelter of mistake and luck. We weave leaves that try to weave us. We set a perimeter with flares and a bowl of sap that screams when disturbed. We roast a fruit that smells like pepper and lightning. It tastes like a dare. We eat anyway. Night on Selva 9 is not dark. It glows in bruised colors, purples and greens, like the inside of a lung lit from within. The spire hums. The jungle clicks its tongue. We lie close because the ground steals heat, and because we are allowed. Do you feel it? She asks. The world being wrong? The world being composed, she says, searching, as if a hand is writing while watching us read. I slide my palm over hers. Electricity runs up my arm. Memories flash that aren't mine. Coral cities, under seas that sing. An infant Nira lifted by hands that wore command like a second skin. A contract branded to a heart. She jerks. Then she takes a breath and presses back. My childhood spills for her, a roof patching under monsoon. My father's hands chapped from hauling Daisal lines. The day I promised no one under my care would be made a ledger entry. We lie like that until the jungle decides it's dawn. The light that comes isn't just sun. It shapes itself into angles. Geometry creeps into the leaves. Triangles tessellate on bark. A pool we found last night shivers when Nira leans over it, and then smooths like a pupil dilating. She touches the water. It glows. The glow climbs her arm like a sleeve. Not chemistry, I whisper. No, she says. Something else. The pool is a mouth. It opens, not with sound, with vision. Stars weave into bridges. Bodies made of light and law cross and pause and turn their heads toward us as if we are late to a meeting. A voice that is everywhere and here at once says, not the beginning. A figure coheres from the reflections, light and shadow, edges made of the spaces between thoughts. Guardian, Nira says, without breath. It watches us with the kind of attention that could fold a person in half. Selva 9 is a nexus, it tells the air, or us, or the jungle that pretends not to be listening. A bridge between realities. You have answered. though you didn't know the question. I squeeze Nira's fingers. She squeezes back. The ground lays a path, roots bending into a spiral that points toward the spire. The spire hums higher, like a symphony deciding on its key. Price, the Guardian warns. Mortals do not love prices. Nira stands, draws herself taller. The commander and the woman integrated at last. We love our own, she says. I stand with her. We already paid some, I add. The path opens wider, inviting and terrible. We go. Together. The path isn't a path, it's a persuasion. Roots lean aside like they've been negotiated with. Even the gnats orbit our ears in tidy spirals, abandoning chaos for geometry. I hate that it's beautiful. I hate that it feels like purpose. Nira walks a half step ahead, one hand behind her, fingers hooked around mine like a tether. Her tremors are gone. The dose didn't calm her. Choice did. Command flickers in her posture, old training standing at attention. But something warmer keeps interrupting. An off-protocol softness that grew between us in broken labs and borrowed hours. The spire waits. Up close, its surface is a million plates of knotstone, each one reflecting a different sky. I see my father's rusted rooftop. I see the Aurora Trail casting a shadow over Venus as we stole a dawn to watch clouds roll like oceans. I see a coral city that hums in chords. I see Nira, 17, sworn in by a woman whose voice sounds exactly like mine when I'm forced to be cold. Welcome, says the Guardian, and its outline ripples, as if the jungle wind bothers it out of politeness. We didn't knock, I say. Jokes are how I file fear down to something I can carry. You were invited before you learned to form mouths, it replies, pleased by its own poetry. Your bond answered the signal. We're a bond now? I squeeze Nira's hand once. We are not a contract, she says. Language stumbles, the Guardian murmurs. Follow. The spire opens without moving. Space adjusts its expectations. We step into a chamber that refuses to decide if it's cavern or cathedral. Ribs of crystal rise like trees. Veins of light run through them, not steady but pulsing, like circulation. The air is cool and tastes like a storm seen from above it. The floor is a mesh of black and mirror. When I look down, I don't see us. I see threads. They extend outward in all directions, thick ropes and hair-thin lines, some bright, some dim, some snapped and smoking at the ends. At certain crossings, shapes gather like knots, families, ships, empires, promises. I know none of it, and I recognize all of it. This is what you guard? I ask. This is what is, the Guardian says. A weave, a negotiation, a chorus that forgets it is singing and so invents loneliness to make the reunion sweeter. Nira tilts her head. Why show us? Because it is tearing. A tremor moves through the threads. Several go black. One flares too bright, then explodes into sparks that drift like dying fireflies. Something in my chest reacts the way ribs react when a cough turns into blood. How? I ask. Extraction without consent, the Guardian says. Control that calls itself care. Old stories repeated because the tellers are paid. I glance at Nira. She does not look back. Her throat tightens. Her pupils shrink to precise rings. She knows these phrases. She was built from them. What's the price? I ask. You warned us. Choice, it answers, and witness. The weave requires a catalyst. Two entangled minds willing to hold contradictory truths without dissolving into war. Your link is rare. It was made under surveillance and against it. Entangled, I repeat, because my scientist brain needs hooks. Not metaphor. Physics yawns. Ethics wakes. Your nervous systems learned each other's shapes. When your hands met in the garden, your histories exchanged with enough trust to write a bridge. Step into the core, and you will be able to stitch breaks where consent was broken. You will feel the places where power made itself God. You will mend. You may never return the same. Nira's hand tightens. Define same. Bodiliness, the Guardian says. Schedule. Solitude. It doesn't mention love, which feels like a trick. Maybe love is the part it can't measure. Ethan, Nira says, voice small and unadorned. Yeah. If we accept, I will not be a project you rescue. I will not be a ledger you hold. I know. And if we refuse, I will not let you martyr in my place. I know that too. We stand in the core's threshold with the universe performing sincerity around us. I should be quantifying. Instead, I listen to my body. It wants two incompatible things: to keep this woman within arm's reach and to hand her to the largest purpose I have ever heard described. A pulse shakes the chamber. The threads vibrate. Somewhere, an empire decides to sterilize a moon that voted incorrectly. Somewhere, a research director signs a funding renewal that requires a quiet atrocity. Somewhere, a child is told their devotion will be weighed in scars. We accept, Nira says. The Guardian inclines. Warning, when you step, other agreements will respond. What agreements? The spire answers for it. The chamber floods with faces, not present in flesh, present as records braided into law. Zor overseers in ceremonial plates, human executives with smiles that never reach the eyes, priests with palms full of contracts, dressed as blessings. The covenant of pure flesh appears in one corner, chanting purity, while selling data to the very syndicate that equips their hunts. A vivid strand threads through all of them. A signature I recognize from the licensing on Hum 72, the compound that makes Nira's cells agree to play nice. Dr. Halvern, I whisper. My old mentor, my first recommendation letter, my last refusal to approve a trial. The signature is hers. The thread loops through the Aurora Trail's funding ledger. Nira hears my breath and follows it with her gaze. She goes still. She sees something else inside that same knot. A seal. A crest. Her old title glows beside it. System Commander, Curatorial Branch. Below, a clause. Return on breach. Memory audit. Bond nullification. It was always a trap, she says, quiet. Not ours, I answer, shaking. Not yours. The Guardian does not comfort. Every weave gains strength when knots are named. Nira steps closer to the core. Show me the wound nearest us. The chamber obeys. Threads zoom. We hover above a crossing where Selva 9's own geometry shreds. A corporation has deployed a Q siphon beneath the jungle to harvest entanglement events as fuel, selling them to colonies that can't afford to ask where the light comes from. The siphon feeds through a relay, masked as a religious beacon. The Covenant prays at it on weekends and guards it on weekdays. The Zor curatorial branch reads the data silently and takes notes. I feel sick. I feel dangerous. How do we cut it without cutting everything? I ask. Precision requires chorus, the Guardian says. Step into the core. Sing together. Sing, I repeat, and Nira's mouth tilts. You are tone deaf, she reminds me. I'll hum. You carry. The core looks like nothing. It feels like stepping between heartbeats. For a moment, my body argues that bodies are mandatory. Then it realizes a body was my favorite old tool. Nothing more, nothing less. I am still me. But bigger. I can taste equations. I can hear my mother's laugh again. I can feel Nira as a shaped flame beside me, her edges careful and ferocious. Ethan, she says, not with sound. I am here. Always, I answer, and discover that always is not a boast when time gives up pretending to be a line. We move. Saying we move is like saying a river takes a walk. We pour. We wrap the siphon's mouth with counter-signal woven from our shared refusal to be owned. The device coughs entanglement back into the earth like a drunk taught manners. The Covenant's beacon turns from mask to mirror. It reflects its paymaster's contracts into the open. Across the weave, observers blink as their secrecy burns off like fog. Alarms bloom in languages. A Zor overseer, her voice the same timbre that taught Nira to salute, speaks a command meant to freeze us. Nira answers with a memory. The first time I made her laugh over a ruined omelet on a lab burner that kept shorting because the Aurora Trail was due a maintenance it never got. Laughter outruns command. The overseer's line phrase. We stitch other breaks as we find them. A mining rig on an ice world siphoning grief from a funeral colony to power luxury domes. Dark. A weapons lab laundering test victims as artifacts exposed. A contract clause that declares love a breach of service deleted. We leave signatures that aren't signatures, a sensation anyone can understand. Two hands meeting. Price, the Guardian reminds from everywhere. Choose it, or it will choose you. I understand. We cannot mend and keep our small life untouched. The weave wants payment in the currency of limits. Take bodily certainty, I offer, before it can ask the crueler thing. Take schedule. We will not be always where we are supposed to be. That is already true, Nira says, rueful. Another price. I won't give you up, I tell her. Useless because there is no court to hear the vow but us. You cannot, she replies, fierce. We interlaced the day you refused my money. The chamber shudders. Shockwaves run through the threadwork. The siphon dies. The jungle exhales a scent like rain on hot iron. Above us, somewhere, the Aurora Trail groans as mass redistributes and the ship's orbit shifts from predation to patience. We retract from the core reluctantly, like muscles cooling. Bodies meet us on the far side. My knees, grateful. My lungs, greedy. My hands, hungry to find hers. Our palms touch. Heat. Relief. Continuity. The Guardian blurs, pleased. The weave thanks you in the only way it can, by remaining. I sag and laugh, then sit down because the floor forgot how to be floor for a second, and became memory. Nira lowers herself beside me, careful like sitting next to a cliff's edge. We're not done, she says. No, I answer. But we've started. The spire dims. Outside, the jungle sounds different, like a crowd that's heard a rumor and wants to believe it is good. A far-off boom suggests someone's relay just realized it is unemployed. Nira leans her head on my shoulder. It isn't command, and it isn't collapse. It's a person being a person. Your pheromones, she murmurs, embarrassed again by wanting and refusing to apologize. Scientifically robust, I say, deadpan. Repeatable effect. She makes a small sound that might be a laugh, might be the seed of a sob. I thread my fingers with hers. Guardian, she says, without lifting her head. They will come. My overseer, the Covenant, the ones who built the siphon. They will make a new cage and call it duty. Yes, it says. And I'm done being curated, she answers. Log that. Logged, the Guardian says, reverent. We rise. The path back to the light lays itself out, soft as invitation, hard as a line in the sand. Together, I ask, because some words keep courage honest. Together, she says, and the spire echoes it back to us until even the leaves are saying it, whispering together in 1,000 green dialects as we step into the day. They arrive before we can finish the sentence called morning. Dropships carve scars through the Selva 9 clouds, light knifing their bellies. The Covenant comes in loud, hymns tied to missiles. The Zor curatorial cutter comes in silent, authority wrapped in glass. Above them both, the Aurora Trail limps into view with half its lights dark and all its courage on display. Witnesses, Nira says, voice steady. An audience, I answer, and the spire hums like a throat clearing. We stand in the clearing with the crystal at our backs. The jungle corrals itself into attention. Vines hang like chandeliers at a guilty party. The Guardian's outline smears and reforms, not hiding anymore. The first to step through the trees are the Covenant. Chipped Tooth leads, armor blooming with slogans that promise cleanliness by way of cruelty. He sees us and grins the way a wound does when it thinks it won. "Handler," he crows. "Pet." Nira straightens. She lets the human mask slide off her skin. Ridges rise. The blue deepens. The air around her takes on a gravity that belongs to a command deck. She doesn't snarl. She doesn't bow. She looks like what she was trained to be, and what she now refuses to remain. "My name," she says, "is Nira of the curatorial branch." I resign. The words land like metal. The curatorial overseer glides from the cutter's ramp. She is spare and elegant, and carved from compromise. Her eyes take us both in as if measuring yields. "System Commander," she says, ignoring the resignation. "Return to duty. Contract Clause 17. Recall on breach." The Guardian turns its head, amused. "Old knots," it murmurs. "I am not your system," Nira replies, "and I am not a clause." "Everything is a clause," the Overseer says mildly. "Even love." Chipped Tooth laughs, delighted by theology that flatters his hate. "Love?" he repeats. "Between a man and a manufactured hunger?" I take one step forward, because sometimes the shape of a choice is simply standing between a person and a lie. "She is not a project," I say to both of them, to the sky, to the contracts hiding in their sleeves. "I will not trade her, sell her, or let you name her need for her." The Overseer flicks her gaze to me like a scientist inspecting an uncooperative instrument. "Dr. Ward, your Hum 72 work is noted." "You mean stolen," I say. "We call it shared," she says, "for the common good." "Which is to say," the Guardian offers, "for the good of those who own the definition of common." The Overseer finally sees it. Fear trims her mouth. "Guardian," she says, with the careful tone of someone addressing a legend that starts biting when annoyed. "You have exceeded your brief. Nexus sites are observational." "This weave is tearing," the Guardian replies. "Observation without repair is voyeurism with extra steps." The Covenant level rifles, the Cutter's drones spin alive. The Aurora Trail sends a ragged comm. Crew at risk, civilians aboard. "Do not escalate." Nira slips her fingers into mine. The tremor starts in me, ends in her. We are entangled again, not as destiny, but as decision. "Show them," she says. We turn together and lay our hands on the spire. It opens like an eye. Light spills, but not the pretty kind. It's ledger light. It's the radiance of receipts. Contracts thread the air, clauses unfurling like toxic flowers. The siphon we shut down groans on its last breaths and confesses its funders to everyone tuned to any channel. Covenant donors laundering guilt into purity. Curatorial observers packaging pain as data products. My mentor's neat signature sitting like a knife on the bottom line. The jungle gasps. The crew on the Aurora Trail gasp. Some of the Covenant flinch, as if their own names might appear next. Chipped Tooth fires a burst into the sky to prove he still matters. The Overseer holds her face still by force. "I return nothing," Nira says, voice carrying. "I refuse audit. I refuse nullification." She looks straight at her former mother-by system. "I choose." The Overseer's calm fractures. "You will be erased," she says. "We built you for alignment. We can undo the knots. Nira steps between threats and truth. You curated me, she says, and I consented by not knowing consent. That era ends here. She glances at me and allows herself a smile anyone can read. I am not a returned asset. I am a person who loves. The Guardian vibrates with something like pride. You may proceed, it tells us, serene as a storm birthing. The Covenant decides sermons are more fun when screamed. Rifles rise. Drones lock. I feel the weave tense like a bow. If someone shoots, history calcifies along its laziest groove. Nira, I whisper, because asking permission is part of how we keep each other human. She nods once. Do it. We step fully into the core. I lose the outline of me in a way that doesn't frighten. I become the shape we are together, a braid with room for air and argument. Nira flares alongside, not the commander anymore, not the product, not the alien I tried to normalize for the comfort of men who need their world neat. She is the one who resigned in public. She is the one I will not handle. We sing. It isn't music, and it is. We choose a frequency that tastes like the first honest apology. We lace it through the threads that run Selva 9, the Cutter, the Aurora Trail, the Covenant's weapons. We write one instruction into everything that can accept an instruction. Protect the unarmed. Preserve the witness. Pause the predation. A bubble forms around the clearing, invisible and absolute. Bullets fired at hate slow to a stop like old jokes forgotten mid-sneer. Drone blades stall and droop like tired dragonflies. The Cutter's recall command bounces off Nira's declaration and returns to sender-stamped denied. On the Aurora Trail, shielding reallocates to cradle life pods and repair a spine. I hear the ship thank us with a soft shudder that says she believes in good luck again. The Covenant shout that we are cheating. The Overseer shouts that we are violating jurisdiction. The jungle laughs without sound and brightens. Price, the Guardian whispers. Not greedy, only exact. We pay. We let go of the schedule we thought we'd keep. Mornings with coffee printers, nights with lab glass fogged by our breath, days measured in research hours and hallway jokes. We trade certainty for reach. We accept that our bodies will be home sometimes and rumor other times. But we do not surrender each other. That was never on the table. The weave can have our predictability. It cannot have our vow. When the bubble thins enough to melt into air, the world has rearranged itself along gentler seams. The Covenant find their rifles pointed at their own contracts. Their donors' names blink on visor HUDs. Their leader drops his gun because suddenly it weighs history. He looks at us and cannot see monsters. He can only see a man and a woman who refused his script in front of his entire congregation. The curatorial overseer receives 2 messages at once. One is a recall order with her own name on it, signed by a council that fears what she failed to contain. The other is a cancellation notice from the contractor that fed her branch when ethics got inconvenient. She stares at us, bereft of leverage, and for a flicker of a second she is only a person who cannot imagine herself outside a system. Pity touches me. I let it pass. It isn't my job to make her new. The Aurora Trail opens a channel. Vazka's face appears, patched ear and all. Whatever you did, he says, voice thick, do more of it. We're working on a remedy for Hum 72, I tell him, because salvation should include groceries and medicine. A true decoupling. We can gift it. No license, no ties. Nira touches the spire, and formulas come like rain. The compound recodes itself under our linked intention. No withdrawal hooks, no compliance tail, no clause baked into the chemistry. A recipe appears on every screen that ever held our names. People will copy it in kitchens and clinics. They will make mistakes, and then make fewer. The guardian bows. A great act, it says. The weave remembers. I breathe. I didn't know I'd been holding my breath since the first time Nira called me Ethan, like it was an order and a hope. The overseer gathers herself to speak one last curse, but the jungle speaks first. Vines lift strange fruit that smell like forgiveness, and peppers. 100 eyes in the trees blink in unison, as if an old ritual found its end. The spire dims to a warmth you could live beside. Will we be flesh? I ask. Quiet, because some questions are private even when the world is listening. Sometimes, the guardian answers. Enough. Nira turns to me. Her eyes are rings of bright salt and stubborn grace. Ethan Ward, she says, formal and tender. Do not handle me. I won't, I tell her, formal and grinning. Walk with me. We step down from the spire. We step into the clearing, into the tense circle of men and women who came to hunt, or to harvest, or to shake their heads. We keep holding hands. We choose, Nira says to them all, and I echo it. We choose people over protocols. We choose to mend without owning. We choose love without ledger. No thunder answers. No choir descends. Just a ship above us, holding orbit with new faith. A jungle that has stopped trying to dissolve me. A weapon lowered and an old career abandoned. A recipe for freedom replicating across dusty tablets. We walk past the Covenant leader. He steps aside. We walk past the overseer. She does not know how to move, so the path opens around her because the weave is learning better manners. At the tree line, we pause. The guardian watches us with the patience of old mountains. When edges fray again, it says, we'll be there, I answer. Nira smiles, the playful half-whisper curled into it now a luxury, not a need. You know, human, she murmurs, leaning close. I still like your thing. This bond. It's ours, I say. And when I say ours, the word folds around a planet, a ship, 1,000 witnesses learning to speak choice without fear. We step into the jungle, new and not, together.